I just fired someone, and it made me realize that over the last 2 years, I've hired probably over 10 virtual assistants. Some of them were awesome, and I still have to this day. Some of them had to just be let go within the first few days to a week. And the difference between the ones who worked out and the ones who didn't had almost nothing to do with the actual person that I hired. It had everything to do with me. So if you're a business owner and you're thinking about getting your first VA, or maybe you have one and it's not going the way that you want it to be going, this video is meant to save you months of headaches. I'm gonna walk you through every lesson that I've learned so that you don't have to. So 2 years ago, I was running a marketing agency with my business partner, Gabe. We were doing absolutely everything ourselves. The sales calls, the client fulfillment, invoicing, content, the paid ads, everything. And the thing nobody talks about at that stage is you don't necessarily feel that busy, you just feel trapped. Because you can't take a day off, you can't get sick, you also can't think about strategy or anything long term because you're stuck in the day-to-day client fulfillment. So the first ever VA that we hired was an ISA. It was someone that would call our clients' leads for us, because before that we were just absolutely drowning in phone calls, hundreds every single day. It was a nightmare. So we did what pretty much every other person does. We just went on like Upwork or Fiverr or something like that, found someone with a fairly good resume and just asked if they could help out with no prior experience in training or anything like that. We were just figuring out as we went. And that was our first mistake, because we didn't have any lists of tasks, we didn't have any SOPs, no system for them to actually walk into. We kind of just hired someone and expected them to perform well. But then obviously as time went on, we learned that we couldn't just do that. So we built out entire tracking sheets, we built out weekly check-in cadences with the VA in order to train them up and make sure that they're still performing well. We learn about team culture and giving them something to work towards. We documented on how exactly to fulfill for the clients. So that's sort of what I learned from our first ever VA. Any person could do the job that you want them to do, but you need an actual system for them to plug into so that you're not just guessing everything, and they're also not just guessing everything. You need a document process of you fulfilling, you need decision trees for them to follow, and obviously escalation paths. And so that's the reason that the second VA worked out so much better. It's because when they came in, they already had all that built out because of the learning process that we went through with the first VA. Everything was documented, broken down into steps, and that made the training process and the actual client fulfillment for the second VA a lot better. All because the system that she was actually walking into was also a lot better. Another thing that not a lot of people talk about is when to actually fire someone. It can be pretty difficult, and I actually had a quite extreme example of this because I had to let go the first ever VA that we hired because there was simply no room in the company for her anymore. She had went on maternity leave, and when she came back, unfortunately, there was no job for her to do anymore. So it was a bit of a difficult process for someone in this situation. Obviously, gave her a separation bonus. We referred her to a recruiter and made sure that she was going to get another job with someone else. We did everything we could, but she just simply had no more room in our company. But that taught me something very important, because that whole process was very long and very drawn out. And I've noticed it when I've fired other people too that just simply weren't working out for the team. I just simply waited way too long. Like, for example, the person that I just fired this morning, I'd gotten on multiple coaching calls with him, with both myself and the well-performing ISA, and yet the results were still subpar time and time again. Giving him feedback, giving him all the resources that I could have given, and I kept telling him, give him some time, he's still learning, but it had been months, and it never got better. And so those 2 months cost us momentum, they cost us money, energy, client experience, because now we had some clients that were talking about a refund or wanted to pause the service. So now I just put a boundary in line, 2 weeks. If after 2 weeks of clear expectation setting, SOPs, communication, training, the person is still missing the mark, it's just not going to work out. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person or that they can't improve. It just means that right now it is costing us way too much to keep them, and they just might not be the right fit right now. And then another thing I learned on that topic is the longer you wait to break the news, the harder it is. Not just emotionally, but also practically, because they're now embedded in your systems. They're part of the operations, and replacing them means retraining someone new on absolutely everything. And the quicker that you get that process over with, the easier it is. So about a year ago into hiring VAs, something shifted. I started learning about AI tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and I realized that the VAs that I was hiring could be significantly more productive if they actually use these tools. Just as an example, I used to have a media buyer that would run every single piece of copy that he wrote manually by me. Now that same media buyer can just generate that copy with Claude or with ChatGPT and know that it's going to be good because it follows all the same frameworks that I've laid out. Or like a graphic designer who can spend a tenth of the time coming up with a design using AI instead of making it all manually in Canva. The AI can proofread their grammar for communicating with clients. It just opens up so many more doors for efficiency. Obviously, AI is not going to replace the VA. The VA still has the judgment, they still know the client, they still communicate with them. They make the final call, but the AI just makes the heavy lifting. So when I paired my VAs with AI tools, output went up, errors went down, and all the tedious tasks just started being automated. So hiring VAs changed my business. Not overnight and definitely not without uncomfortable conversations. But looking back at it, the team I've built is the single biggest reason where I am today. So if you're a business owner and you're still doing absolutely everything yourself, I get it, I've been there. But the thing I'd tell you is this: you don't need a perfect hire. You just need to build out a system that makes any hire great. Start by documenting your SOPs. Start with one person, give them clear instructions and expectations, and give them the tools that they need to win. And then you just build from there.